Want to learn how to make a cat's face? Stay tuned. Hey, it's Pam from Ben McFuzzyLugs, and it's Thursday, so it must be another needle felting tutorial video, and today I'm showing you how to make a little cat's face. So forever I found it really difficult to make cats' faces, and I just want a quick little tutorial to show you the method that I use, that basically is using an all-in-one from the tip of his nose right up and over, up his nose and then over each eyebrow pretty much, and that gives just a nice cat's face shape. I've not seen anyone else making it in this method, so hopefully it'll help you out to make a kind of cute little cat's head that hates focusing. Come on. So let's get started with this. So first I'm going to make a ball of white, and roughly about the size I want the cat's head to be. And I'm going to want the top of the ball to be relatively flat, so I'm just going to focus on running the needle perpendicular, not overly felting this because this is going to be the face of the cat, so we've got a lot more work to do on it, but just getting the back and the sides nicely rounded. Once it's starting to become dome shaped, then I'm going to start to look at the shape of the cat's actual face, which is round and kind of wider on the top and narrow and pointy on the bottom. So all I'm going to do is squish slightly, and when I'm felting, I've felt this shape, so that's going to be his cheeks and this is his little chin, and just felt into this and at the sides, sculpting it roughly to the shape of the front of his face. So head, cheeks and chin, but still keeping this flat, not thinking of three-dimensional shapes yet. When I'm doing this, I just start to lift up the back slightly so the chin's more pronounced. Once he's started to hold his shape a little bit, he's not rock solid, he's not totally firm. We're just going to start to make his cheeks, which is two little balls of fleece. Just pinch off a bit and roll it into a ball. And then felt it loosely into a ball. And we're going to take and stick them on just above the chin, right in the middle of the face. And what I'm going to do is, this cat seems to have little pink lips. I'm just going to add a tiny touch of pink to the underside of these cheeks, where his mouth's going to go. It will just slightly show up, and just easier than adding it afterwards. And this cat's chin is in a slightly different colour. I'm going to call this colour coffee because I dyed it myself with coffee, so it's a coffee colour. Just taking a small piece off, and I'm going to felt a kind of flattened U shape, literally just making his bottom jaw. So I'm pinching it between my fingers and felting round a curved shape. You'll see it in a second. Obviously be careful of your fingers. So you get an idea of the shape. going to pop him on underneath the cheeks where we've been building this jaw up a little bit. And I'm letting the tails blend out into the white. Okay, the main reason I want this fairly well felted at this stage is because the next step is going to be putting the eyes on, and I use glass eyes on a wire, which the wire goes right through the back of the head basically. So if the piece isn't well enough felted, then what's going to happen is when I come over and felt it later, once the eyes are on, then the piece is going to shrink as it's getting felted, and that means the ends of the wire are going to be sticking out, or the eyes aren't going to be firmly in the head. So I always try and felt all my pieces before I put the eyes on to a kind of similar level of firmness, so that I'm always doing the same thing pretty much. You can use glue in putting eyes on. I'm not a fan of doing that personally because it solidifies the fibres, it makes them lumpy in the one place where you add the glue. You can also felt the eyes on, which I do quite often, but in this piece I'm using glass eyes, so I'll show you that. So you're looking for it felted to a level where it's not rock hard, but it's not totally deforming when I pinch it with a fair amount of pressure. And then I'm going to pick the position of the eyes, which is lower down in the face than you tend to think. Especially, we want our felted animals to be a bit cute, so the lower down makes them look like younger animals. So I'm looking, the nose is going to be central up here, and I want the eyes roughly about here, because I'm going to be dropping the top of the head will probably felt down a bit more. I haven't fully felted that yet. And I'm making a wee tunnel for them by stabbing in diagonally through, so the wire of the eyes is going to form a cross at the back, and I'm just felting this wee tunnel. Because if things are quite firmly felted, it can be actually tricky to get the eyes in, and it also gives me an idea of the placement. So trying to make this little tunnel line up and diagonally through. These eyes might be slightly wide, we'll have a look. And what I've got, these are the eyes I'm using. These come from Glass Eyes online, and they are glass eyes. As you can see, these are blue ones for the cat, and they're on a metal wire, and these ones are 5mm. So what I do to attach them to start with, I'm just going to cut them roughly in the middle, and then pop them through the little tunnels that I made. Takes a little bit of force sometimes. And then decide if it's cute or kind of freakish, but we've still got a bit of felting with the shape of the head, so I think that's not bad. So I'm going to flip it over, remembering these are going through diagonally, so for this wire I'm pressing down on this eye, and I'm just going to snip the wire as close to the back of the head as I can, and I push up so it pokes up just the thickness of my needle nose pliers pretty much, and I just catch that and twist it. Like I say, I always do the same thing, so the eyes are embedded into the head just the same amount. So snipping flush with the head, pushing the eye up through, catching it just at the thickness of my needle nose pliers, and twisting into the head. You'll get a little bump here where it's pulling in, but this doesn't matter because that's where we're going to attach the neck anyway. Now this cat has coffee coloured areas underneath the eyes, so I'll put these in just now. before I put the nose on. The reason for that in this cat's case is because its nose is white, so I'm going to put a white nose over, and this will just give a nice clean line. A small amount of coffee underneath his eyes, of chocolate underneath his eyes, so I'm just going to add that also so it blends in a little better if it's put in before the other bit's firmly felted in. It'll just hopefully look a little bit more natural. Now when you're felting around the eyes, some of the fibre can come up over them and hide them, but it's easy if you're really gentle with your needle, and this is glass eyes. With plastic you would scratch them, but glass is fine. When your needle touches the eye, it's just going to slide to the side, and that removes the fibre. It takes the bits of fibre away with it, so it cleans up and the eye's nice and tidy. You can also, if you need to, just reach in underneath the eye and pull it out slightly, because we're going to add eyelids over this anyway, so just want the eye not being too firmly embedded in what we're making. Okay, now for the nose. I'm using the felting surface mainly for you to see it a bit easier, but what we want to do is we're going to make a piece that makes the whole of the nose and the brow for the cat. So it's going to be a kind of T-shaped piece. So the first thing I'm doing is pulling down this section for his nose. As I go, I'm just checking it against the cat to make sure that I've got the right length, and I've almost got that perfect already. That was total luck. I'm going to start adding the colours, because this cat's got quite a lot of colour going on. So firstly, along his brow it is actually this coffee colour, but his nose, the bridge of his nose is white, so I'm just taking some of the coffee and felting that on. The main area I'm focusing on is this eye ridge, making this as firm as possible. I'll worry about shading out the colours on the rest of the fluff later, but just this curve up the nose and onto the eye. And the same on this side. And this guy has a wee pink nose, so I'm just going to take a tiny bit of pink and pop it right on the end. And the nose, I just want to be sort of an arrow V shape pointing down the way. And this is the point where the cat starts to come together quite quickly. His nose pops on just where the two balls meet here. His cheeks, we're just going to pop the nose on there. And felting up, around and over his eyes. I still have to felt this in quite a way, but I'm going to add in some of the other colouring before I get too far. So the white on his nose comes up to a point. And this coffee colour goes all the way back to where his ears are going to be. And he has some of the chocolate colour coming up on his forehead. And I'm just gonna felt this in a bit more firmly so he looks a little less strange. And his nose has just become a little bit smooshed in, so I'm just taking a little more white and just rolling it into a tube shape to build up this nose a little bit more. The whole thing is a little bit too high, so just want to make it slightly lower down by just making an extra section. I'm just gonna, this doesn't usually happen, but of course when I'm filming it, that's when it's gonna happen. Just felt in this little V, little arrow shape here, just at the bottom of his nose. There we go, that's a little more like what we need. I'm just going to make him two little ears, which are just going to be triangles of white and then coffee and then chocolate. Just the exact same way as I made the rabbit's ears, just triangular instead of long and pointy. So I'll be back once I've got them done. Okay, just looking at the best places to attach the ears. Around about here. And his ears have a little bit of the chocolate colour in front of them. So I'm just going to add that as I'm felting the ears in place. I'm just going to felt this some more so he looks more like a cat and less like a worried rabbit. Just tying in the ears to the head with a little bit more chocolate down the side of the ears and onto the head. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that helped somewhat. If it did, please give a thumbs up. If you have any questions about needle felting, please stick them in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you back next Thursday.